Welcome to the world of werewolves. Subscribe now. The Lunar Tide Paradox, the Epic of Symbiotes. The First Blood Tainted Tide, the Rift of the Gears. Chapter 6, The Clone Paradox, Ava -2 in the Gene Bank. The rainstorm in the Scottish Highlands pounded the dome of the abandoned manor. Kylan slid along the moss-covered stone wall. The rustling sound of the pocket watch gears resonated with the alarm frequency of the distant Silver Cross base. She pulled off her hood, and the gear-shaped birthmark rippled in the blue light of the quantum detector. According to the anonymous intelligence from the Lunar Tide Network, this place housed the most taboo gene bank of the Silver Cross. In front of the iris scanning door on the third underground floor, Kylan pressed her Wolf Claw against the identifier. The gene camouflage program temporarily transformed the birthmark pattern into the fingerprint of a researcher. The moment the iron door opened, the pungent smell of preservative liquid rushed towards her. Hundreds of cloning pods were suspended in the dim green light, and each pod was marked with a serial number starting with AB. Her breath condensed into white mist on the mask, and her gaze was fixed on the number ABO2 at the end of the corridor. The human body in the cultivation pod was suspended in the fluorescent green nutrient solution. The gear-shaped birthmark on its chest was wriggling and growing like a living thing. The moment Kylan's fingertips touched the glass, quantum after images suddenly burst on her retina in the Icelandic laboratory in 2015. Her mother, Ava, was strapped to the operating table, and Serena's silver finger cots were injecting the werewolf spirit gene into her vein. Memory materialization was triggered on the verge of getting out of control. The pocket watch gears turned into a scalpel, but it shattered into powder the moment it touched the glass. Warning: unauthorized symbiote gene contact. The mechanical female voice seeped from the ceiling, and the red alarm lights illuminated the black rose petals in the pod. Serena's clan emblem was actually floating in the nutrient solution. Kylan's Wolf eyes caught the gear structure at the bottom of the cultivation pod, which was exactly the same as the internal structure of her pocket watch. And the clone's fingers were unconsciously tapping on the glass, making the same clicking sound as the pocket watch. "Who are you?" Kylan's Wolf claws dug into the metal console. The quantum after images overlapped with reality, and she saw herself as a child lying in a similar pod with the serial number 001 engraved on her palm birthmark by a laser. The clone's eyelids suddenly trembled, and its pupils slowly opened. They were the identical gear-shaped spots of light as when she awakened, and the quantum codes flowing in the iris formed the initials AB. Amid the alarm sound, the cultivation pod suddenly activated the self-destruct program, and the nutrient solution began to boil. Kylan tore off the Thunder Core pendant and smashed it at the console. The electric arcs jumped on the gear-shaped circuit board, but she froze when she saw the surveillance screen. Lucas Drake was watching her from the other end of the laboratory. The Silver Cross badge on his white coat reflected the clone's reflection. "Welcome to the core of the truth, symbiote." Lucas's voice seeped from the speaker with the unique coldness of the laboratory. "You thought Ava was a hero? She volunteered to be a gene container just so that we could test the stability of the werewolf spirit parasite on you." He raised his hand, and the cloning pods around him lit up one by one. Each human body in the pods had the same gear-shaped birthmark as Kylan. Memory materialization went on a rampage in anger. Kylan's eyes flashed with the bloody wedding at Notre Dame, the memory smoke in the gray-white city, and the moment Serena's ice sculpture shattered. These painful memories turned into a cage of thorns, trapping Lucas in the middle. But when her Wolf claws were about to pierce the other's throat, she saw the black rose pendant swaying on Lucas's chest. It was the love token that her mother gave to Serena. "Look at this!" Lucas pressed a button, and the surveillance video from 2015 was projected on the wall. After Ava injected the virus into the embryo, she actively embraced Serena's silver finger cots, with a relieved smile on her lips. She knew that symbiotes couldn't survive the Silver Cross's purification plan, so she chose to make you the template of a failure. His pupils reflected Kylan's Wolf form. "And we just helped her complete this great experiment." The glass of the cultivation pod suddenly shattered, and the clone of Ava -2 stumbled into Kylan's arms. The birthmark on her chest was absorbing the black rose essence in the nutrient solution, and a gear-shaped skeleton was faintly visible under her skin. "Mom, ... double quotes. The mechanical voice of the clone carried an electric current hiss. Her fingertips woggle Kylan's birthmark, and a crack suddenly opened in the quantum space, revealing Ava's after image inside the Arctic ice sculpture. Don't believe ... double quotes. The lips of the after image moved, but Kylan's space time resonance was disordered at this moment. She saw 3 versions of herself standing in the gene bank, and the birthmark of each version pointed to a different gear core. Amid the alarm sound, Lucas activated the self-destruct program. The serial numbers of the cloning pod started a countdown, and the clone in Kylan's arms was aging rapidly. The gear-shaped birthmark faded from bright red to gray-white. Her existence is to prove that symbiotes can be mass-produced. Lucas smiled in the shadow before the explosion. But you're different, Kylan. You are the only container that can hold both werewolf spirit and human memories. The silver dagger he threw stabbed into the wall, and the hilt was engraved with LD Leon's initials. Quantum after images flickered in the ruins. Kylan rushed towards the exit, holding the gradually transparent clone. Her Wolf claws stepped on the black rose petals all over the ground, and each petal reflected Ava's smiling face at different ages. The moment the sunlight pierced through the clouds, the clone turned into blue light in her arms and merged into the gaps of the pocket watch gears. A new engraving suddenly appeared on the inner side of the gears, NN always. The rainstorm washed over the ruins of the manor. Sarah's Leica camera captured the last scene. Kylan stood in the Tanhai of the gene bank, with the birthmark on her palm overlapping with the corpse of Ava-2, forming a complete gear pattern. Her Wolf eyes reflected the black rose petals floating in the sky, and each petal carried a quantum fluctuation. It was Serena's consciousness transmitting information. The Lunar Tide network has just exposed the gear, marked baby plan. Sarah walked out from the shadows. The camera lens was still smoking. But more importantly, Lucas Drake's encrypted files show that he is Lam's father and the host of the first werewolf king's consciousness. She stuffed the blood-stained work permit into Kylan's palm. The number 0428 glowed coldly in the rain. And your gene is the last key to unlocking the time anchor. Kylan clenched the work permit, and the gear-shaped birthmark suddenly burned. In the direction of the North Pole in the distance, the first obvious crack appeared on the blood moon, and the gears of her pocket watch were rotating in reverse. The hands pointed to the aurora in Iceland in 2015, the exact moment when her mother, Ava, was executed. Memory materialization was triggered uncontrollably at this moment. She saw Serena's trembling fingertips when she swung the knife, and Ava's relieved smile at the corner of her mouth. They all say that symbiotes are a mistake. Kylan growled at the blood-colored lunar tide. The moment her Wolf claws crushed the work permit, Serena's sigh came from the quantum space. The raindrops refracted into gear, shaped light bands in her pupils. In the distance, the Silver Cross airship was projecting a new slogan: "Pure gears need blood lubrication," and her reflection shattered in the puddle, overlapping with the afterimage of the clone Ava-2. Deep in the gene bank, the cultivation pod numbered ABO3 suddenly lit up. The birthmark on the palm of the embryo inside was pulsating, resonating with Kylan's pocket watch. A holographic projection of a black rose appeared on the surface of the nutrient solution. The water droplets condensed on the petals reflected the Arctic ice sculptures from 3 timelines. Under the Wolf claws of each ice sculpture was the same gear-shaped anchor. "You think you're a savior?" Lucas's voice seeped from the quantum afterimage. "In fact, you're just an experiment, a perfect container jointly created by Ava and Serena." Kylan's Wolf claws pressed on the core gear of the gene bank, only to find that the gear pattern was exactly the same as her birthmark, and the central groove was just the right size to insert Serena's silver finger cod. When the rainstorm gradually subsided, Kylan picked up an experimental log in the ruins. On the title page was a photo of Ava, and on the back, in werewolf characters, it was written, "The rift is not a curse, but a gap left by the universe for symbiosis." She stuffed the log into her backpack. The rustling sound of the pocket watch gears suddenly became clearly audible, and in the pattern of the gear-shaped birthmark, ancient mage codes that she had never seen before actually emerged. The unique dimensional tearing sound of astral travelers came from the distance. Kylan looked up and saw the mechanical eye of a raven flickering in the clouds. The liquid metal dagger he handed over had the engraving, Dawn, overlapping with the clone's last whisper, and reflected on the blade was the gear matrix that was awakening deep in the gene bank. This episode ends, but the story continues. Subscribe now.